Okay, so here we are. Hi, this is Jen Phillips April with Right Words Marketing and Mira Zaki, a photographer who does incredible branding photography shoots. So welcome, Mira. I'm happy to have you today. Happy to talk with you today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
We're going to talk about pre-planning your project. So pre-planning your photo shoot with Mira, even pre-planning a video shoot or even your website. We're not going to get too much into those other topics, but the whole concept of pre-planning, I have found, and I think Mary, you said you have discovered this too, that a lot of times people are really overwhelmed with the concept of what they have to do ahead of time, not realizing that they don't need to worry about that.
Yes. In photo terms, we call it pre-production,
Right.
and also in film terms as well. Um, I have to admit, it is one of my most, I'm like getting so excited even thinking about it. It's one of my most favorite things to do because there's so much creation that happens in the
Mhm.
pre-production, and it's where there are endless amount of ideas and possibilities. Um, Potentially that could be overwhelming, but when you have experts working with you, they're the ones who have the vision to organize and narrow things down
Mhm.
into categories. So I personally find it to be one of my most favorite parts of my work. And when you are an expert, you understand what is required for each part and you know how to like connect those dots and put the puzzle together so that your client doesn't have to worry about that.
Right. So chances are that you, like most professionals, have some sort of process
Yes.
so that you're working through
Yes,
that's
exactly.
just innate because you've been doing it for a while. Do
Yes.
you want to share your process with our viewers?
Yeah, so the photo shoot is broken into three parts. So pre-production, production, and post-production, again, film terms as well. So the pre-production is all of the planning, the selecting, and the decision-making. Production is actually doing the photo shoot, and then post is everything that happens
Mhm.
afterwards to delivery of the photos, usually electronically. I'm not shooting film anymore, but for people who are, then the delivery would be the prints that they receive and or the electronic delivery of the photos themselves. So for pre-production, it's a pretty deep dive with me. You know, I like to get very personal with my clients, and we talk about their why they're in business, what's important to them about being in business, and the vision, you know, really where are they, where would they like to be. And
Mhm.
that really helped, for me personally, helps inform the storyboard and the story of how I'm going to create a photo shoot for them.
Right.
So we'll chat. You'll get a lot of me in the beginning. There's a lot of decisions to be made. There's a lot of things to tell me about, the things you love, the things you hate. You know, I had a client who absolutely hated the color black. It was like a trigger for her. It was a very, you know, bad kind of memory. Now, I live in New York City and I happen to love the color black. So
It's the city
it's
color.
uniform. I gotta say, you know, it was very interesting because I made it a point to not wear black on the day of our shoot so that she could be as connected as she needed to be and as comfortable as she needed to be. And it was actually nice, you know, it actually felt good. I was like, oh, I'm not wearing any black. This is really interesting. You know, those kinds of things are important to take into account because you want your client to be as comfortable as possible in all capacities. Even for something that seems small like that, it's actually a very big deal to find out what people's triggers are and what their fears and what their anxieties and concerns are so that you can provide an experience that helps them to feel very comfortable.
Right, right, of course, because I mean, finding out that black is, some kind of triggering, negative emotion color for her, it's such a simple thing for you to say, oh, well, okay, then I'll make sure that I wear something else. I mean,
Yeah.
it's an easy fix for you,
Yes.
and yeah, it means so much to her.
Yeah. I'm certain that it helped keep her at ease. You know, if I had shown up in all black, it might have been more challenging in the beginning. But you
Right.
know, those are the kinds of things that are, for me, they're very important to provide and to pay attention to, because there are little nuances that we all may not notice. But you know, luckily, as a photographer, I'm very observant, so I will pay attention to that kind of thing, and I will take that into account whenever people say like, oh, I really hate the color pink, or I really, or I just don't like the sand. So it's like, we're not going to go to the beach to have your photo shoot if you don't like the sand. We're just not going to do it.
Right.
so,
So,
but,
I mean, because that brings us to like, how do you, so let's go back to the storyboards actually for a moment. For people who don't know what storyboards are, do you want to explain how that works and like how you use those and incorporate those in your photo shoot planning?
Yeah, so again, it's very similar. There's a lot of crossover with film here. So I have not been given the gift of drawing. So I use like
Me
Pinterest
either.
and magazine collaging, which is, vision boarding. I will do that as my storyboard planning. So some people have the gift of drawing and they'll actually physically draw out
Mhm.
what the scene is, what the background is. If you're, there's a beautiful fall tree behind you and you're in a gorgeous long coat. So it's basically designing each look
Right.
and what the background is and what the colors are. And the great thing about Pinterest is that you get a physical actual thing instead of a drawing that might say red hat. Well, there's 4 million shades of red, right? So what shade of red are we looking for here? And those components are really, they're very important. They're very communicative, they're very expressive, and they all
Mhm.
have their energy. So it's basically deciding the details of what each look is going to look like and what the background is and why. You know, are you at a business meeting? Are you celebrating a launch? Are you sitting with a flute of champagne? So there's a lot of decisions that are made. And I believe we talked about this last time. When you see a finished product and it's just gorgeous, you forget, or you may not be aware of how much work went into it. I have a background in culinary and travel photography. So getting the right flute, you could go through 50 of them before you find the right shape and size
Right.
of how you want it to appear. You don't want it to be bigger than your head. You want it to be, there's an
Yeah.
expression from each of the objects as well that are complementary. So
Right. So
those are the kinds of things that happen in pre-production.
yeah, and then those are great examples, and my significant other, Rick Toon, is a former pop master and art director from the Hollywood
Oh
era.
yeah.
He spent 20 years in Hollywood, and so he talks about having, someone says you need white bowls, and he goes at
Yes.
20 different styles. Well, which kind do you like?
Exactly. And it matters, again, I've done a lot of food photography. So, for example, I've been an assistant on the Got Milk campaign, and that's incredibly detailed.
So
Like
he did that campaign. I mean,
that was a lot of fun. Every time I got called for it, I was like, yes, milk, so much fun. Just
right.
great people, great client to work with. But I mean, they would have department stores worth of bowls, because you might take the photo and maybe it looks a little gray, or maybe it looks beige, or maybe it's
Hmm.
too wide and then the person's face disappears. So there's all these components that the trained eye is, ready to look for. And they do make a difference, because what you want is to communicate clearly visually. You don't want to have the opportunity for someone to misunderstand you or your brand because of some kind of, bizarre thing that might be out of place or oversized or the wrong color. So,
Right. So you work with a lot of entrepreneurs who are doing branding shoots. So
yes.
you typically do them outside, they're on location, like how you're not confined within a studio.
No, they're usually a combination of in and outdoor, pending weather, of course. And it also depends. There are times where people really enjoy um, the way that we can design a set or the interior of a place that they love, like a hotel lounge, or the design of a certain bar or something similar to that. Maybe they just love the history of a place, or they have a personal connection to, this is where I met my significant other. So, we take all of that into account and really try to create a visual story of who this person is and what their business is. And it's so fun. So
Yeah.
it really just depends. Generally, it's a combo. It's some indoor, some outdoor. Only in the really cold months have I only done indoor shoots just for weather purposes.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's fun to get that outside look too.
It is, as long as it's above 0.
Oh yeah. Not in the cold weather.
Yeah.
I don't want to go out if it's below 40.
Most people don't want to either. So we definitely try to keep the discomfort to a minimum.
Right, right. And so they come to you and they'll say like, I want to do this branding shoot, and do people usually already kind of have a ideas in mind of what they want to look like, of what they want their end product to be? Do they usually do it just for a launch, or is it more of an overall? Like,
You know, it depends is my best answer, because even within coaching, there's a lot of different varieties and everybody's different, you know, and there can be 50 health coaches who all have a different kind of approach, even if there's a common thread. You know, for example, I've worked with some authors, and some of them are just starting their career. So that's quite different than somebody who's more established, who's doing a launch, who has a very specific goal. So the wonderful thing is that I can meet any of my clients where they are in their career and where they'd like to go. If you're just starting, I always say, let's book a half day, because you really don't need that full on 9-hour, 5 to 7 look shoot. That can also be really overwhelming. So
yeah, that's hard. I mean, too, but it's demanding on the
it's
person.
very demanding,
If you've never
especially
done it
if you haven't
before,
done it.
it's really more demanding than you think.
It is. It really is. So I always tell my clients, go veg out, go order room service or eat, and just don't talk. Just like let it all digest and process, and just like let yourself kind of reground after that experience, because it is exerting so much energy, and it's also very emotional because it's vulnerable to be in front of the camera and to step out and to share yourself with the world. So yeah.
Right. So talk about that a little bit, about the vulnerability and like how you work with your clients doing the to help them feel more comfortable.
That's the inner work. Yeah. It's very important, because the inner work is really going to help the outer reflect exactly what the inner is. And I just created the new VIP day offer to do the inner work individually with me in a beautiful location, and to get that experience of going through the feelings and going through all of the challenges that we may have, and then learning how to have tools to feel more comfortable and confident that, you know, maybe I don't look like I did 10 years ago, but the person I am today is awesome. And I'm ready to share that with my clients in the world. And so it's a real boost of, you know, self-love and body image love. So, again, there's a lot of me. It's very high touch in the beginning. There's a lot of conversation, and a lot of discovering, and again, like with the client who hated the color black, it's those kinds of things that when you pay attention to them and you really nurture them, then you get to emerge more comfortably and more authentically. I think that sometimes when we're in front of the camera, it might feel as though we need to be someone else or look differently than who we really are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely, you know, it's a process. I tell people that it takes time. It takes some practice. It takes some really getting to that energetic space of comfort. So
Yeah, well, and everything takes practice. I mean,
yes.
you know, I watch people, work with people doing Facebook Lives, and it's like, I know the first one I did was like, "Hi, I'm just trying this out. Let's see if this thing works."
Exactly.
But and then like my early days were like, "Oh my gosh, they were train wrecks." But you know, I did like a week's worth of lives with like the recycling bin over my left shoulder. Not even me. I'm like, "What do you do?"
Definitely takes some practice.
Yeah, it takes
You
some
know,
practice and you cut yourself some slack. But when you work with someone who really knows what they're doing and really helps you, I mean, that's part of your job is putting people at ease.
exactly. Yeah, there's the intuition and the empath side of me that's combined with the creative visionary. So it's creating a safe environment is the first and most important thing. And that's why it's very valuable to talk about all of the fears and anxieties and previous experiences. So I have to say, a lot of people have never had a professional photo shoot. So then it becomes about educating and really
Mhm.
explaining the process and explaining why it takes so long and why there's so many people and what the end result will be. And I have found that's been very helpful for a lot of my clients who are literally sometimes have never had a photo shoot before. So
Because you bring a makeup person with you and you bring other people. I mean,
I
this is only
do.
you and the client.
I have a full crew. We're 7 people, and that in and of itself can be overwhelming. It's like, what? Why are there so many people?
Right.
Well, it's all the experts. I always say it's kind of like your entourage. Like we're here to all take the best care of you and to help you. And it is really fun. I keep my sets very intentional and lighthearted and a very safe space. So there's a lot of goodies and like energy that we keep contained so that it's safe. There's I have a friend and a colleague who has a video challenge going on right now, and it's called It's Safe to Shine. So that's kind of, I love that because it's like, it's safe to stand out. We've been told, many of us, the narrative is that it's not safe to stand out. It's not
Mhm.
safe to share. It's not nice to share. So, but it is
Right.
safe and we need it. We need everybody's brilliance and genius, especially right now. So
Yeah. And if you don't express yourself, then, the world's missing out on your gifts.
exactly. And what happens so often is there's 1, 2, 10, 100 people who are like, oh, me too. Oh, I feel the same way, or I have the same experience, and you inspired me. So it's a really
Right.
beautiful ripple effect that happens.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Mira, is there anything else you want to share today?
Um, I feel like we're interested and we'd love feedback. We're interested in sharing some more of these videos
Yeah.
if they're landing with people talking about each individual part of the process of being in front of a camera, whether still or moving. And I'm still taking on VIP days. So if anybody's interested in either a virtual or an in-person VIP day, I'm happy to connect with you and talk some more about what it means to do the inner work.
Yeah, because your VIP really is about doing the inner piece and not
It
so much
is.
about what clothes to wear.
Not yet, but part of the fun of it and to get a little taste is at the end of my VIP days in person, you'll get one of my professional stylists who often work on celebrities. So you'll either get hair or makeup, and let me tell you how good that feels. It feels amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That sounds awesome.
yeah.
Well, and Mira, what's your website?
It is mirazaki.com, MIRAZ like zebra, AKI.com. All of my handles are at Mirazaki Photo. And if we're not friends and there's some weird Facebook thing, just find me through Jen. Sometimes there's just strange, restrictions that happen. So
Right. Right. Great. Well, I thank you for doing this. I think this is fun. If you all are interested in this topic, we could talk about wardrobe, talk about lighting, makeup. There's so much more that all goes into this. But planning, I mean, planning for anything. I know that, I talk to people, and they're just like kind of stressed out about the whole concept of, I write web copy, so they're concerned about creating their website, but they don't realize that they don't have to think about it all. I do it all the time. And it's like, okay, it's going to be this page, this page, this page, and this page. Are there any other pages we need? I mean, we make it simple, as simple as possible. So we're guides, right? I mean, we're
exactly.
guides in our respective specialties. So it's, I think that's one of the biggest things that, it's like recognizing when you start working with someone who's a specialist in the industry, which you're choosing them, that just say, they're going to help me, and that's why I'm hiring them.
Yes. I personally really love the book, The Big Leap. And it talks about the zones, and the zone of genius is where we want to stay. So what comes to mind is like an event or a wedding planner. If you've ever tried to plan a wedding, it's just so overwhelming, and you don't know where to begin, and you don't know how to keep it up. And the beautiful news is that you don't have to, because there are people in the world who not only are experts at it, but they love it. They
Right.
live for it. So you delegate to an expert to keep you in your zone of genius, to free up your time and energy to do what it is that you love.
Right.
And it's just really wise. As
So
well
good.
as efficient. We like
So
efficiency.
much more efficient to try to do it yourself.
Do you want to share the story you just told me about
Oh, sure.
scripts?
So right before I hit record, I was sharing with Mira how I have a client, and she's also working with Rick, my boyfriend, who does video marketing, and she had written him a note after they had discussed a few weeks ago shooting some videos, and then she had gone kind of missing. Like she was, she was busy, she was doing other things, but we're like, well, what happened to her? And then she sent him a note recently saying, I'm really overwhelmed about coming up with a script. And it's just like, you don't have to come up with a script.
Makes me so sad.
No, I mean,
You
we're
don't have to
showrooms, so
do
you don't
that.
do that, right? So, like, let's let him, who's done 50 Super Bowl commercials, I mean, who's just like been in the world of scripting forever. I mean, he can come up with something that's, and yes, you'll massage it, but
Yeah,
it's like just let other people do what they do well,
yeah. I
and then
think
you can move
also like,
on it. Because most people are better editors than creators, right? Especially if you're stepping into something that feels maybe a little bit vulnerable, like photography or video for your business, and you really don't know what to say, or copy for that matter. But most people are better at looking at something and going, oh, I really like that, or can we tweak that this way? You know.
I think it's also, maybe part of the intake process or the connection process is to explain that you don't
Mhm.
have to do very much. You have to talk to me, tell me your fears, tell me your favorite colors, and then we do the rest of it. Basically you show up and we get to play dress up with you. um, but yeah, I think it is really, for me, that's like a heartbreaking story, because it is very overwhelming. And even when you're hiring an expert, you may not completely understand what they're providing. So
Yes. Yes, I think that's so true in a lot of in across industries, but particularly when you start getting into this, websites, photography, video. It's just like you don't have to do it all.
exactly. And it's interesting, because I think it actually just, again, ties back to an old story and a narrative that you have to do it all alone. And if you're an entrepreneur, then you have to be a one-person business until you get help and until you're in a place of delegation. But the truth is that there is a time period in which you do things alone, but it is not sustainable to do it alone, completely.
No, it's
You
not.
just don't
And
have to.
no, and while you may do it just when you're getting started, you don't want to be in that space for long.
No,
Doesn't mean you quit your
definitely not.
employees, but you hire some people who are specialists in what they do to help you further your vision.
Back to that zone of genius. Stay in
Yes.
what you love, what you're really good at. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love that story, but it was sad.
I know, but it's not the first one I've heard it. It's like one of those tales.
Oh,
I mean, I've heard this all the time,
yeah.
and yeah, but it's just like because that's not one person. That's lots of people, and it is because you go, oh, well, but you don't have to. Like, don't
Yeah.
just take a deep breath.
There's a lot of relief that comes as well in the explanation of that, when you realize that, oh, I don't have to do that part. Really? Maybe.
Right. And you just froze, Mira.
I'm still here. It's
Oh, okay.
internet. Internet. Internet is that our like signal to
My
stop?
gosh, that's the flashing lights at intermission.
The red lights are on. Time to go.
Your time is up. Okay, well, it's so great talking with you again, Mira.
Thank
And
you
I will
for
send you the recording so you can pop this up and And let's do it again sometime.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.